G'day. I'm under this 2012 Tiguan and I've got to replace this bearing that's in here. It's just squeaking and carrying on. It's really in a bad way. Let's see how much it's dropped. I think the universal joint in here is okay inside this hub, but this thing here is all one unit. It's got a rubber mounted bearing in here, and it's just been squeaking and carrying on. So we've got to take out the whole prop shaft all the way down to the rear diff and all the way up to the flex plate up the front there. It's a gearbox, and then drop the whole thing out. Hopefully we don't have to remove the exhaust, which would be a pain. I'm just undoing this here bracket here. I guess I'll have to undo these to undo the mount from the exhaust. We need to take this bracket off so that we can hopefully drop the whole assembly here out the side of the gearbox of the exhaust, out the the center tunnel of the car, and then pull this thing out. So there's three, I think they're triple square bolts down there. You need a triple square socket to undo those three. I'd recommend just marking all of that so you put it back exactly the way it was if your drive shaft's all nicely balanced. And probably the same with this center bearing, and this universal joint in here needs to come apart so that you can get this bracket off, this one here. And then same story up the front, I think. Yeah, there's those triple square bolts up there. Not sure what size at this stage, but that's what we got to do to get all this out. So I'll come back to you. So I got this bracket off, but I'm not sure I'm going to get the drive past shaft, the prop shaft past this silly exhaust bracket, so I may have to undo these nicely rusted bolts and spin this whole bracket. Hopefully on the exhaust will slide down to the vertical so I can get this out of the way. Yep, there you go. Painful. Turns out this is actually just a joint in the exhaust. It's got nothing to do with this bracket. But if you remove the join, you can get the exhaust pipe right down, which is handy, so I won't complain too much. We'll just leave that for now. Now we're going to concentrate on getting these flex joints apart on either end. We'll see how we go there. Alright. So we pulled this thing out. Here's the front flex plate from the engine, and then you can see this is all completely shot. The inner bearing race is gone. There's no ball bearings left. They're somewhere out in the road somewhere. But this is really gone. And then we've taken it out to undo the rear, and see I've marked everything to make sure we put it back the right way. So apparently, and I think you've got to undo this cover here to get access to a little circlip in here that separates this special universal joint in here. It has some bearings in a cage, but to start with you got to undo this around here. Just prise this edge up all the way around here like this, and then we can take that off. That gives us access into there. So we'll try that, and yeah, so it's a matter of getting a good screwdriver, I guess, and just working it in under here like this all the way around to try and get that off. It's pretty hard to do with one hand, so I'll pause it here. So I found using a screwdriver and just getting under that with a hammer and just get a screwdriver with a solid core right through the handle so you don't break your handle. You just gently tap on this and it should come away. Just got to be patient, which I'm not very good at being, but ask my wife that one. Yeah, so just getting in here and prizing this thing apart like this, and I think if you get almost all the way around it should pop off. Just work away at it. Yep. Alright. So you have to be really careful at this point. I've pulled this cover off and you got all the bearings, they've just dropped out, so I don't know which of these two went in which part of the cage, but I'm just going to clean it all up and make sure they're all okay and there's no unusual wear, and I'll just put it back. But I will mark this in alignment with this part of the shaft over here. Make sure that we are still keeping the front half of the drive shaft in balance. You can see a little balance plate there in balance with this one. Alright, so we'll try that. Okay, so this is what we're looking at. This little universal joint with a cage that holds the bearings, and all the bearings in there, and the bearings slide up and down on here. I'm just going to clean this up. I believe there's a circlip in there, but I can't see one. I just wonder if this is a press fit and I've just got to pull it off with a puller. And see, but I need to investigate, because maybe there is a circlip and I've got to push it backwards first, undo that circlip, and then pull it. So we'll find out. Alright. This thing was extremely tight to pull off. First I had to push it this way because they've got this dumb circlip that sits in a groove inside this joint here, this machined piece here for the universal joint. It sits about here inside, so when I go to put this on, I've got to push this way until I can get the groove in the spline, put this circlip in, and then pull it back. VW, please explain, why can't you just have a circlip on the very end of the shaft that we can see, we can get off with some circlip pliers and then pull the whole thing off? Why do we have to muck around and go one way first, remove the circlip, and then pull it all the other way? I'm telling you, it was really tight to get this off. I had to hit it so hard this way, I thought I was going to break something, maybe even bend the drive shaft. I think these engineers have too much time on their hands. They sit behind their computers and design things that when it comes to actually working on, makes it a nightmare for the mechanic. This is just not acceptable. Anyway, we've got this off. I think it's important to remember the orientation of this thing. So I put 2 dots here to indicate this edge, this in this direction, and then tapered section here will go onto the shaft in this direction, this way here. Alright. Okay, then there's this tin cover which keeps all the grease in place. There's a little clamp here. You just undo this around the rubber here and then pull the whole thing off like that. There you go. That's had it, but we've got a new one here ready to go in, so you should have all that with your kit. Okay, this thing's just going to fall off. There we go. That one's had the gong, and so is that. It can go in the bin. So we'll clean this up, then we've got to try and get this old race off. I may have to just very carefully cut to release the pressure on this race so I can pull it, because there's not much to grab it. Yeah, that's not going to hold. I haven't really got a good traction here to pull this race off, and if it's anything like how tight this was, getting this off, then it's going to be a job, and I don't think my puller is going to get in there. If the old bearing was there, I'd be able to get around at least the outer casing and then pull the whole thing off. So that's going to be fun to get off, I think, but we'll give it a go. We've got to get this thing finished and back in the car for the customer and ready to go. Okay, we got this little bearing race off. We just tapped it with a nice meaty chisel right there, and just hit it on the side, hit it like this, and stupid camera won't focus, but just knocked it off, got the silly thing off. Now when we put this new one on, we got to make sure we get the correct orientation, so that the worst thing you want to do is put this on and then find it should be, you know, the other way around or something. So I have checked, and I noticed that this rubber coupling's got the proud side. It's on the front of the car, and the sort of recessed edge is on the back. And then I put a little arrow here to say front, just to remind me, so that we put it on the right way. So that's got to go onto there, and we'll just tap that gently on. That shouldn't be a big issue, but yeah, it just goes on there. I'll just clean this shaft up a bit, and we'll go from there. So get a bit of a rag, give it a good clean. Make sure there's no problems here. That. And I don't think it hurts to put a little tiny bit of oil on there, just to help it slide on. That. So these gloves are really good. Yeah. Alright, so we'll go ahead and put this. Okay, we are back to this job, and I want to apologise because my phone died. It just ran out of battery. So I had to go and put it on the charger, but you can see I've assembled all this in the right direction. The arrow to the front, I think I had showing you this the other way around. I'm sorry about that. The arrow to the front. I cleaned up the inside of the hub and the bearing cage and the little ball bearings, and cleaned everything up, and then got the grease that comes with it. You can see I've had a fun time here with this. It just came with the kit. Packed it with grease like there's no tomorrow. I used up the whole tube. I just think that more grease than less is a good thing. And then slid this cover on, and there is a bit of friction. You got to use a hammer. Taking some paint off, but it's better to get this all the way up so that you end up with just a groove like this, and then you just tap this edge down so that it creates a flange fit that holds it from coming off. That keeps it all sealed. There is a little O-ring under here which you need to replace. That should come in the kit. Yeah, and I did make sure I lined the this front half of the shaft up with the rear half of the shaft. So now, and I put this on a block of wood rather than supporting the whole thing on this and putting weight on the little rubber here to knock this down. So I put this on a block of wood, and I'm just going to go for it and get this all knocked down properly so that it's a nice neat flange, and then we can go and stick this thing back in. Well, After much coaxing and bashing, I've got that down about as close as I can get it. It's probably still not right, but it's not moving anywhere. I don't know why they paint this surface, because the only way to put this down is to hammer that flange out. It just takes the paint off. Anyway, it's under the car, no one sees it. All this nice pretty black paint chipped off, not an issue. Alright, we're going to go put this back in. This is a much easier job if you've got someone to help you hold this big long drive shaft. So it's not wobbling around and mucking around, because you've got to get it over the exhaust, this bracket here, and then stick this end up into the gearbox, and then, you know, forcibly get that end up into the diff at the other end. It's not easy, but there's only one of me, so I haven't got help. Well, I could ask my wife, but I'm not sure how keen she is to get under the car with me. But it may come to that. It's her car. So I need to get it going for her, and if it's going to require her to just hold one end up, they're not heavy, we'll do that. Alright. Also a good idea before you put this in, just put a little tiny bit of grease in here on the shaft coming out of the diff as well, and we'll do the same up the front end. It's just to make it easier to install, and it doesn't corrode if you've ever got to take it off again. It's certainly going to make life easier, so you've got to do it onto that one up there. Put some grease on it. You can fast forward this if you want, I don't care. It's just easier for me to not put the camera down. We'll turn it off and just, oh man, make them easy to work on. There they are. Anyway, there we go. Some grease on that little guy. And we'll go for a little walk down the other end. You might just put a little bit on this one too, because you can see how rusty and dry it is in there. So these things work hard. These things have done 200,000 kilometers, so you know, that's a lot of revolution in the rain and mud and dust and whatever. So I just do this one too. Just give this a little greasy. It's good to lubricate stuff, make your car work better, and yeah. And if you've got a rag, I didn't bring a rag. Oh well, I'll just wipe it on this one. Okay, I'm gonna have to stop this just for a sec to get this drive shaft up inside. Okay, job is all done. 13mm bolts to hold that bracket, and the center shaft support bearing all in place. Yeah, the triple square bolts are down that end, down near the diff. Exhaust bracket support is there. And we have, this looks all good in here, I think. Sitting pretty central. And, well, let's see. We got all that done up there as well. Yeah. My torch is just gone. Okay, there we go. So I'm just going to test run it while it's off the ground. Make sure it doesn't have any vibrations. And then we're good to go.